I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, the Donald Trump SPAC digital world acquisition company, which was supposed to take Donald Trump's company, Truth Social, public, has been struggling. And this week particularly, it is absolutely tanking. One of the things that we are learning is that the PIPE investors, and PIPE is just known as private investment in public equity. These are private investors, not the initial shareholders who come in and provide private capital to try to boost the company. These individuals committed roughly $1 billion a few months back, or close to a year ago at this point, when the pump and dump scheme that was Digital World Acquisition Company, or at least it certainly looked like that to many observers, was reaching its high point. Now that Digital World Acquisition Company is trading down from its height of more than $100 a share to about $16 a share. Granted, the initial shares are divvied out at $10 a share. So for all the kind of pump and dumpy stuff that was going on, it's almost trading down to about the point where all SPACs trade out initially when they go public at $10 a share, and then it's potentially going to tank even lower than that. And so from this PIPE, this private placement money, about $140 million of committed capital pulled out, which basically is showing that they have zero confidence in this merger between Digital World Acquisition Company and Truth Social ever actually occurring, and Truth Social actually ever going public via the SPAC process. But you may also be saying, well, that sounds like pretty bad news that $140 million-ish is being pulled out of the Digital World Acquisition Company. But what about the remaining $800 million or so, $850 million. So, well, the story isn't good there as well. And this is not really being reported in any of the mainstream media reports. So let's dig in a little into the SPAC world here, if you will. So the SPAC is a special acquisition company, right? A special acquisition company is a holding company, sometimes referred to as a blank check company, because what happens is investors give this blank check money, and then the SPAC is supposed to go out and then find a private company to bring that private company public. In this case, the SPAC is Digital World Acquisition Company, and the purported private company they're trying to bring public is the Truth Social Company, which, by the way, did not exist at the time Digital World Acquisition Company and their SPAC even announced. They just said they were going to be announcing into this entity, and then Truth Social was later created. And then after you do your initial raise of funds into this blank check company, then private investors, through this PIPE process, private investment in public equity, they could come in and infuse capital into the entity, and they basically try to ask for better terms than market. They try to ask for like conversion rates that could always benefit them no matter where the stock price goes. And these are savvy and sophisticated investors, usually institutional investors. And so here, what's taking place right now is, with the remaining amount of money, other than the $150 million that just pulled out of their investment in Digital World Acquisition Company, the remaining investors are trying to negotiate terms, and what we're learning from various sources and reports is that they are trying to negotiate it so that they feel safe and secure, even if the stock price tanks to $2 a share, from $10 to $2 a share. And that is currently being negotiated right now. And so individuals were allowed to pull out of the Digital World Acquisition Company if they did not complete the merger by September 20th. So already September 20th passed. One group was like, give us our money back. And now all the other private investors, though, can still get their money back, but they're trying to hammer Truth Social right now to say that we think that your stock is going to be worth like $2 a share, not even $10 a share, and we want to be protected. That's what sources are reporting. I'm reading that as well on some of the online blogs that really cover the nuances of SPAC and some of the other financial journals out there. And so Trump doesn't want to concede that his stock can drop to $2. And privately now he's threatening to sue the Securities and Exchange Commission because they are investigating potential crimes that have been committed by Digital World Acquisition Company in connection with its potential merger with Truth Social. Where have we heard this before? And as I've always said, Truth Social at this point really represents everything that Donald Trump does in his business, which is an utter, complete failure, right? So you have the criminal investigations taking place. One of the things that you're not allowed to do with special purpose acquisition companies is the target company and the sponsor, in this case, the sponsor, Digital World Acquisition Company, the target, Truth Social, are not allowed to engage in any collusive conversations or, frankly, any real meaningful business talks before the special purpose vehicle is announced, because there's a whole series of disclosures that a special purpose acquisition company has to make, and it's supposed to be a blank check company that finds the company after it's created. And so there's an investigation because Truth Social didn't even exist at the time Digital World Acquisition Company announced that transaction, which raised a lot of suspicion, including what we've always been talking about here on the MeidasTouch network, which is how'd they even have this conversation if, unlike most other transactions, the private company at least exists. At least it has a history of revenue and EBITDA, financial reports, so that it could provide, certified accounting records. Whereas Truth Social had none of that. It was literally created after Digital World Acquisition Company's amount. So you have that. You then have incompetence, right? Truth Social didn't even register the trademark for Truth Social. And then when it tried to, it got denied because there's other things called Truth Social. So it may not even be able to use the name Truth Social. Failing to pay bills. We've learned that Truth Social has failed to pay its main hosting and networking vendor the money that it's owed. It's about $1.8 million. That's another staple of Trump-run entities. And now I guess the fourth, which is Donald Trump just threatens to sue when he fails. As he swirls the drain, I'm going to sue you, sue you, sue you. And now he's threatening to sue the Securities Exchange Commission, as it appears that Truth Social and this merger is about to just completely, I mean, it's already completely tanked, but this is about to be game over for Truth Social. So now Trump, I'm going to sue the SEC. How dare you investigate me for potential crimes that I may have committed or likely committed. One of the things that the SEC is likely also investigated, not just the SEC, there's a criminal investigation out of SDNY also. There are weird trading patterns as part of the pump and dump appearance, at least of what was going on. And so there's an investigation into how some investors apparently knew about this merger before it was announced, or right it was going to be announced, who made a lot of money and then left. Who holding the bag? And this is kind of the final staple of a Trump entity, just ripping off and grifting people. Because now the people who have held the bag were individual consumer retail investors, just regular average people who were conned by Trump, who put their life savings into this. We've done another video on this. There was a Reddit thread of Truth Social investors who have said, we put our life savings into this because of what Trump had said. We've now lost our life savings, but we're going to stick to it. We're going to stick in there. I mean, despite all the news saying that sticking in there is probably the worst thing that you can possibly do. And because this has really been a scam on retail investors, if you look at it, there's so many retail investors that the Truth Social Digital World Acquisition Company entity can't even really find and locate all the investors to get them to vote in favor of the potential business transaction. And that's why it's also been delayed, because the investors have not even voted in favor of the business combination here. So the short of it is $130 to $150 million has pulled out. There's about another $800 million of potential committed capital that hasn't really gone in yet, but I expect that they're either going to pull out or grind the terms down. That's going to show that Truth Social is a complete utter failure. Like, no SPAC would ever agree to the terms that these private investors are now demanding. And so we'll see what happens with those negotiations, but I think we're going to hear about more filings of more people pulling out their money. The stock is trading at about $16. It got pumped to about $100 a share. We will keep you posted here on the MeidasTouch network of more developments as the Truth Social SPAC continues to fail. Hey, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. Make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch network. And for those wondering how you can support independent media, go check out patreon.com/MeidasTouch. That's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. There are different membership tiers there. That's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.